we have that every day, whether it be legal or medical records are going through it. You need a particular, extraction of data, and you have this huge data set. And you're just going, how do we do it?
Yeah.
But then that's where we looked at the problem and said, hey, can we, build something? And we did. And
Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Matt Alexander, host of Chiro Kings podcast, and I'm here with my co-host.
Hello, Dr. Chris Sankom here.
Dr. Chris Sankom, and we have two wonderful guests today. They drove a little ways out to see us today, so we really appreciate that. We have Chris Jones. He is creator of Kai AI, and that is a e-discovery platform for attorneys that helps them with their reviewing documents and stuff. He's going to get more into it. And they also have a second product. It's a med legal product for QMEs. So for those of you who don't know what a QME is, that's a qualified medical examiner. And this is somebody that works in the workers' comp system. And sometimes they get these massive files they have to deal with. So he's going to get into that. And we also have our other guest here today, Kirill from Tarasenko law firm.
Yep.
And they do mostly med legal stuff as well, right?
Yeah, so we handle personal injury cases, we handle wrongful death cases, and the entire, kind of the genesis of Kai AI started from within the firm.
Ah, okay.
So I can kind of explain how we came up with it. And
let's
how we
dive
put it
into
together.
it. Kirill, why don't you go ahead and get it started, and then we'll let Chris chime in with anything he wants to add to it.
absolutely.
Yeah, so that's probably a good way to put it. Like the entire genesis of Kai was like, we saw a problem and we saw that there was not really an existing solution out there. The funny thing is we actually thought there was a solution in the beginning. So I'll kind of explain. So I started the practice back in 2012. So I've been practicing about whatever that is, 13 years now or so. So within the personal injury field, we're dealing with a lot of doctors, we're dealing with a lot of medicine, a lot of records. Right. And it might be records that are specific to this patient for this case only, but there could be records that go back 20, 30 years. It all just depends. Also, if we're handling like a wrongful death case, maybe a nursing home case or like a drug rehab facility, there could be just thousands of pages of records. So in the past, there was companies that were typically overseas, maybe in India, maybe in Philippines, maybe in China, different places. But they were basically all overseas companies where if you needed records to be summarized, indexed, chronologized, you would reach out to these companies. They'd give you a quote per page. Generally, it'd be roughly in the 50-cent range per page, maybe 40 cents per page. And they would tell you how long it would take. And so, we found it to be, the quality tended to be pretty good, maybe inconsistent, but it would take a long time because you were taking your records, sending them, to India, and then wait a month or 3 weeks until they come back.
Yeah.
And so we found within my practice that if it was a smaller file, we could do it in-house, right? I could take either I could do it myself, or I could put a staff member on that project, and we could basically summarize. The problem is, if it's a large enough file, or if you need it done very quickly, there just might not be enough firepower to get it done. And so right around that time, this is about 2 years ago, so Chris was working with me in the office, and he had been working with AI more than I had been at that point in time, about 2 years ago. And so there was a case I was working on that had about 7,500 pages, and we knew that wasn't it. Like we knew that was only the first batch of records that had come in. We knew there was going to be more. Jeez. And it was like a drug rehab death case. And so I remember I had spoken to Chris, and I said, look, you seem to know a lot about AI. Is there a way to get these records processed without sending them abroad?
And of course I was, no problem. It's got to be easy, right?
Chat
GPT.
I'll just attach it to ChatGPT.
Yeah, we'll just upload the file.
7,500 pages.
Yeah, and very quickly I found that it didn't work.
Why didn't it work?
Yeah, because I think at the time it was a 100-page limit as far as the data set. And I was like, okay, well, there's got to be something else out there.
Right.
There has to be something that someone's seen this problem and wanted to solve it.
Yeah.
And that's where we looked at it and was like, okay, there's got to be. I started doing research. I spent a couple weeks and I'm going like, there's really nothing out there that's doing particular what we needed to do. And then, so I came to him and I was like, all right, well, I know another person, our other co-founder, our other partner, Anthony. And we're just like, hey, could we create something for ourselves in-house?
Yeah.
The money that we were going to spend on sending it out to India or the Philippines, maybe we could just create something. It's got to be simple enough, right? AI does everything,
Yeah.
right? It's just one-stop shop, right? Then we're like, okay, so we contacted an engineer. Now, we're not technical as far as writing code, and now we found that AI writes code for you as it's progressing, right, over the last few years. And we were just like, okay, maybe we come up with something for ourselves. And that's where we led into, okay, let's start the whole process of using AI. How can we build something for ourselves? Not necessarily a product that we were like, hey, we need to push this out and sell this. Like most people are like, hey, I got a great idea. Let's sell it. It was more like, hey, can we have something for ourselves to work in-house, make ourselves more efficient, especially when you're trying to find, 80 pages out of 7,500 pages that are actually going to help with the case. The rest of it's kind of junk.
Yeah.
And I mean, Kirill can talk to that too, as far as, they're going to send you everything and anything, and you have to spend the time to go through it. It's
a lot of work.
It's that case dump of like, oh, you want it? You can have it all, but you got to sift through it.
Yeah. Good
And
luck
that's-
finding what you need.
Exactly. And that's a lot of problems. Like we have that every day, whether it be legal or medical records are going through it. You need a particular, extraction of data, and you have this huge data set. And you're just going, how do we do it?
Yeah.
But then that's where we looked at the problem and said, hey, can we, build something? And we did. And that first version was bad. It was slow. It worked. But it wasn't as great as you would think it would be. Like people use ChatGPT to write emails and stuff. They're like, man, it's so quick and great. We didn't have that like aha moment. It was like, okay, can we refine this and make this better? And then, Kirill's son was playing baseball, and one of the other kids' dads happened to be into AI technology. And
shout out to Mike Wilson.
yeah, Mike Wilson, thank you so much. He's helped us with a lot and kind of guided us as a mentor and an advisor, to make sure we made the right steps to progress the software to where it is today and where it's going. But then, once he had that discussion with him, we sat down. And he's like, "You're in the right direction, but you're doing it the wrong way." And we were thinking, hey, can we build this from scratch and build this LLM, large language model, and go, okay, we're gonna build this like, Microsoft ChatGPT to build our own. And little did we realize that we didn't have $250 million to put into it to build it.
Yeah.
So we kind of stood on the shoulders of giants and went, okay, can we use their product, fine tune, refine it, and make something that we can actually use? And that's where we came into basically our second iteration of Kai for legal, and then started using it. And then we started seeing, oh wow, this is impressive. But we had to overcome some of the mental hurdles that people are like. We hear about ChatGPT and legal creating cases and case law and hallucinations. I'm sure everybody's kind of heard about hallucinations. And then, we just kind of progressed from there, just kind of refining it. And the great thing is building it within a law firm and seeing what our use cases were, how the team uses it, how we break it down, how it can actually be useful, and then designing around that, where I see now we have a ton of competitors, tons of people in the space, but it's built from an engineer's perspective. The learning curve is really, really steep. It's hard to, use the software. We wanted to keep it very, very simple.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because whenever I'm working with AI, I'm not a computer person, but I realize how important that these systems are. And I'm just doing ChatGPT Pro, but I can provide my knowledge with my job and have it prompt itself. And it's an interesting perspective, talking about how a law firm would maybe have a better insight on how to get to the outcome, rather than some person who's better at the tech stuff and doesn't understand how it really works within the office.
Yeah, that's correct. And so it's taken a lot of quality control, right? Because like in terms of double checking the work and seeing, okay, so here's a new version we put out, but is it summarizing the records the way we want them summarized, right? Is it accurate, but is it also taking out what we need? Because it wouldn't be very useful if it just took literally the whole record and then just copy pasted it, right? That wouldn't really be a summary. That'd be the same length as the original.
Right.
So there's like a very fine line between giving the information that you need out of the record, but yet not over summarizing to the point where someone looking at it says, well, how does this help me? You know, like I'm looking for cliff notes on a book, you know, like let's say a school project. I'm not looking for the whole book rewritten.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so not only is that a fine line for, I think, anyone, but we found with individual medical fields. So like, for example, an internal medicine doctor, when doing a QME, might not be wanting the same summary that a chiropractor wants. They're very interested in certain labs that perhaps the neurosurgeon or the chiropractor is not interested in. So a lot of it is also, field dependent. So what we're working on right now is actually giving like a drop-down menu within our QME medical software where they could say, this is the type of doctor I am. These are the types. This is the fashion that I want these records summarized in.
Yeah.
So not just default, but
Right,
specific
that's genius.
to my specialty.
Sounds completely necessary to have it separate those different fields, because I can speak to some of the AI documentation that we're trying to implement within our practice. Is that we're teaching it how to look for specific chiropractic findings rather than just lab tests, of course.
Yeah, and that comes down into like the fine tuning, right? Training, fine tuning an AI model. Because what we're doing is, and all these companies out there say, "Oh, I have my own, AI." What they're doing is, like I said, they're building on the backs of ChatGPT, DeepSeek, Gemini, Llama. Those companies out there that spent, hundreds of millions of dollars, not billions of dollars, to train these models, and then they have those APIs, so you can actually make those calls and use that service, but it's very bland. It's very, very broad. So we're trying to break it down, like you said, doing particular fields. So we want to make sure that, okay, if we're trying to extract, chiro specific details out of those medical records, you have to fine tune those and make sure. And then the next thing is make sure that that's brought over from the back end and processing that data, that you're capturing it. And that's where AI and the new processes have really developed. It's before it's, prompt engineering, it's using, a RAG method, vectoring, chunking. I'm sure people have heard of the chunking of the data. So if you have a data set that's, say, 100 pages, you're going to break those down into chunks, maybe 300, 400 chunks. Then you go ask, okay, I need this, and we try to extract it. Now, multiply that out by 1,000 or 2,000 pages. You're still, with the old system, it's still only getting maybe 100 chunks of the top 100 of the data. Well, maybe you need the top 250.
Yeah.
You're missing that extra 150 chunks that has that pertinent information that you're trying to put together. It's super important. The old method a year ago, and technology's, this is moving so fast.
Exponential.
Yeah, what we were working on 2 years ago was outdated within 6 months. So you're constantly trying to evolve and adapt and bring in the new technology, the new systems, and everything's so cutting edge all the time. It's moving at a pace that we've never seen in technology. 20 years ago, it was, okay, we can rebuild this or build on top of it year and a half later.
Yeah.
And kind of go from there. But what our software we're really looking at is user-friendly, extract the data and get that data, and then make sure it's good data and not hallucinating. We were really worried about the hallucinations on the legal software. And that was one of the big things is ChatGPT still has that. It's extracting from internet, Reddit, someone made up a blog, it's pulling that data and you're going, is that right? Where's the source data? You see with Pro Model, you can do like the deep research and it shows the citations, and that's really cool. You can go to the web pages of where it came from and kind of do your due diligence. We figured, and I think Kirill can speak to this, is AI is a great solution, but you also want to make sure that you do your due diligence and make sure that the information you're extracting, especially in a legal setting or medical, it's correct.
Yeah.
Our legal software, what we wanted to do was, can we only process the data that we upload and only search the data that we're actually processing, rather than having to go extract and make stuff up off the internet and go through the whole process? And that's where we found, okay, what we're going to do is create a user interface where you can upload your documents, label them, categorize them, go in, you can ask questions, just like ChatGPT, search bar like Google, but basically like Google for your documents. I have a question. I need a list of all their medications from 10/21/21 till current. Well, actually, it'll produce that. Have it out there. You have it, but we have citations that go with each one of those. That hyperlinks back to that source document. And then everybody's seeing Control F where it highlights that hyperlink actually brings you back to that source document, highlights where it extracted it. So you can do your due diligence.
Yeah, that's
check
cool.
it.
Checks and balances.
Exactly. Because, I mean, we've seen the attorneys out there, and Kirill could probably speak to this, is, they're using case law made up by ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Jeez. And when the judge calls them out on it when they're in court and says, where did you read that?
Where did you find it? What's your source?
What's your source? What happens to them? They get in
There's
big
been
trouble.
a lot of cases like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was one of the things that we said, okay, we're gonna make sure we avoid that.
Yeah.
That was kind of our first hurdle to make sure that we were doing what we needed to do, and then it was actually useful. And remember too, it's not just attorneys, it's the paralegals, it's the supporting team, junior associates, whoever else is working on a case that is, making sure that when they present this information, it's actually based on the case and it's proper. I mean, same in the medical, Chiro, you want to make sure the records you're reading and going through are accurate and the information you're getting. You need to know where that source data is coming from.
Of course.
Yeah.
What about security? So you said some people are just putting stuff right in ChatGPT, and then other attorneys are sending stuff out to the Philippines. Like, does your software help avoid any of those issues?
Yeah. So I'll explain it more from the law firm side.
Yeah.
Just explain the actual technical, like the SOC 2 component.
Yeah. You want to go ahead and start?
Go ahead.
So from the technical side, basically, how stuff's sent, stored, sent back. Some of the stuff sent Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox. Somewhat safe, right? Everybody thinks stuff on the internet. If everybody thinks that everything on the internet is safe, it is not. I'm sure the government and Microsoft and all these hacks that we hear about all the time are out there. Big thing for us is we're actually partnered with Microsoft through Founders Hub and NVIDIA. So we're in a Microsoft ecosystem with them. So we're actually using secure Microsoft servers. We're two-way encrypted, SOC 2 compliant, and HIPAA compliant. So we had to go through and get those certifications. It's really important that any company, whether you're using ours or anybody else, that you find that the basic certifications for security is SOC 2, Type 2, and HIPAA. Because we are dealing with personal records, medical records, documents, legal documents. These are people's personal information. For me, like just in QME, sending those records overseas by Dropbox or Google Drive or by email, and it's all your personal medical history, personal insights, depositions, W-2s, I-9s, all those things could be found in those files, and you're sending them out for 100 people to manually go through. And the funniest thing to me is when we talk to some, QME doctors, and they're like, "Well, are you guys, security wise, are you guys secure or doing it?" I'm like, if Microsoft were to get hacked, maybe we have an issue.
Right.
I'm like, and that's a worldwide issue.
Yeah.
That we're having.
Yeah. So in terms of like the doctors that we talk to, so right now, if we talk to the doctors that are doing QMEs, generally they're going to have either they do it in-house or they're using an overseas company to summarize records. Because it's just like a book report. It's like it takes you a certain amount of time to read the book, but reading a document or a book and then summarizing it are different tasks.
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. And in the QME world, which includes SIBTF, that's a different type of like a QME for work comp injury. Mm-hmm. So there's like the SIBTF, there's QME, and these doctors, their fee schedule basically pays them in order to read the record. Nowhere does it pay them to summarize the file as well. So, but they also need it summarized because what if their deposition or what if their report doesn't take place until sometime later? So they're going to want it summarized.
Right.
So they're going to basically, the company that the doctor works for is going to pay somebody to summarize the records, and that's standard. The question is who's doing it. So right now they're mostly sending it overseas, and so it's always funny to us when we talk to the doctors, and they always say, "Well, are you HIPAA compliant?" We say yes. Well, how do we know that? Well, because you're not sending your records anywhere. You're processing them within a closed system. It's like sending an email to yourself. You're dragging and dropping the records into Kai. You log into Kai, make a profile, and then you summarize the records yourself. and it's done within, minutes or perhaps an hour or two, depending on the size of the file. And so when they ask, is your system safe? I always say, well, what are you doing right now? Well, the files get sent to India. Okay. Do you know who overseas is reviewing the records? No. Do you know how many people? No. Do you know how they secure the files? No. All I know is that 3 weeks later, the file comes back to me and it's nice and processed.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of funny that they're always concerned about, are we doing it in a safe and HIPAA compliant way, which we are, when the way that they're currently doing it is anything but.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting.
Secure, and we're eliminating the human element.
It's like
It's
people don't want
antiquated.
to know where their food comes from sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. They're like, it's just wrapped in plastic on a tray, right?
Yeah.
It's like, that's the only way I want to know. I don't want to see it come from the farm and how it's processed, right? And that's that's exactly it. It's like, we're processing it. We have no access to it because it's two-way encrypted. And you basically, log into a dashboard, upload your documents, it goes through. And what our current QME product is basically replacing that old way almost exactly. So you're getting a PDF that's got the chronological order of your medical records. It also produces a docx that you can go in that has a basic summary, highlights those features like we're talking about. It would be for Chiro or medical, we have a general purpose that kind of extracts everything. And then with the new technology coming out, we've already started our next version, and we're going more to that selection of individual. If you want a specific lab results, you want all their medications, you want those things. Our next version is actually coming out where we're taking an agentic AI approach.
Okay.
And that's probably where everything's leading. And we're hearing those buzzwords, agentic AI. And that's where kind of right now, everybody knows ChatGPT is AI. Now we're going into the agentic realm of AI. And that's kind of, look at it as AI is DIY. You got to write a prompt. You do it yourself. It extracts the data. It gets it back to you. Now we're going into the realm of DIFY, does it for you. And the agentic is like having a bunch of different assistants that have a specific task. And that's where you'll see some of the older AIs and other programs, competitors, they're using this old system of AI, as well as we were when we started, because that was what was available. But to stay cutting edge, that's where we're moving forward with an agentic approach to the legal and to the QME, where it's basically we're assigning AI agents to specific tasks. Like, this one's going to be really good at pulling out just lab results. This one's going to be doing date of service. This one's going to be summarizing. This one's going to be pulling out whatever specific it is. Will have each individual task. It's like having a team of assistants that's specifically trained for that specific task. Where before, one AI does it all the tools in the tool belt. Now, each one of these agentic approaches is going to be an individual tool that's specialized to be able to do the extraction. And the real key is to make sure that you refine and train those individual agentic approaches, and then also be able to orchestrate and have those in like a central hub, like our dashboard that you can go into and use that and get exactly what you're looking for without having a bunch of extra in there. Just kind of trim the fat and get exactly what you need out of it.
It definitely seems like that's the next step forward, and I've been seeing a lot more of people talking about how we can create different models. I don't know if it's considered models in that sense, or what would you call one of those agentic AI?
Agent?
I mean, it's an agent,
an agent.
AI agent. Yeah.
So they can actually operate with it back and forth to each other, and then you're just kind of telling them to do this or have this strategy. Like, that is crazy.
Well, there was that one on the internet, right, of the two AI bots talking to each other.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
And then they're talking in English. Then all of a sudden they go, "Let's talk in code" or something. And they start like,
oh gosh,
talking.
And that's where it's going. I mean, it's got more use cases. I mean, you look at Microsoft has been working and ChatGPT with Stanford doing like oncology. Cancer research using an healthcare agent orchestrator. What the orchestrator is doing is basically a hub that's kind of controlling. If you think of it in terms of like, say, a basketball team, all the agents are the individual players. The orchestrator is the coach, telling this is what you're going to do. They're communicating to each other on the court, going back and forth. Hey, you need to go here. You need to go here. You do this. You're the big man, post up low. Don't be shooting threes.
Yeah.
You like Curry, go out there and do it, and that's basically what the agentic approach is now we're taking it and going, okay, you're really good at this. This agent is going to do this, and you fine tune it and do it because you could do it for media. You can do it for video, audio. Now everything's becoming multimodal. So you have multimodal agents where you can do video, audio, and then just do basic research into like data processing is how we're looking at it. It's like, how can we train these agents to find that data once we process that data? So the key too is to process the data first, have that data, access it at your fingertips, and then have those agents go out. Where before you'd have one agent, which is just AI, not even agentic, it's just one with a huge prompt to go out and extract everything. You want one guy to do everything. You gotta not only be the coach, you gotta be, the point guard, the center, the power forward. You gotta be all of it. Now we're actually starting to realize that we can train it. They talk to each other. They go in. They go, "Hey, what are you doing?" Oh, this, okay, and it double checks and checks and balances throughout themselves without you having to do anything.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the future. I mean, it's really where it's going. So it's either get with it or get passed by. Really.
Now, Chris J.
Yeah.
You were telling me that you just got back from Azure from Microsoft.
I was at Microsoft Build up in Seattle, and Azure's kind of one of their whole ecosystems, right? So Azure and Microsoft, you have Copilot, you have all these things. Azure is what we're using as part of our platform since we're partnered with Microsoft to actually use it. So what Build was Microsoft was announcing all of the new features that they're rolling out, stuff that they're beta testing, where the future of AI with them. They're also, partnered with ChatGPT, OpenAI.
Okay.
So a lot of their products, you're able to use it, but through Azure, you're talking, databases, blob storage, the whole ecosystem you can build within it to build an AI product. So whether you're into something that's like, audio, video, podcasting, want to make it more streamlined, you can actually train and refine through Azure and actually help build out whatever, software that you're trying to build. And they're really there. So when I was up there, I was really just what's new, what's cutting edge. And as soon as I got back, our team was implementing some of the newest approaches. And that's where we're talking about the agentic AI is QME. What we're doing right now is replacing the standard antiquated version and replace people with AI. And now we're taking that custom approach and applying the agentic. So the next few weeks, we'll actually be rolling out a new version, new user interface. Everything's going to be new, fresh to stay with the current technology where, you can go and select. I just want labs. I want imaging. I want the x-rays broken down. I want CT scans, x-rays, all compartmentalized using an agentic approach. So I just need to look at that right now. I want to look at labs separately where the current process and what we have is just reproduced, right? Using AI where it's a long list of, hey, here's everything and here's the tabs and you have to find it. Now you're going to be able to use the agentic and go in and just extract exactly what you need at your fingertips without having to spend hours and hours going through something.
Yeah, this is a total sidebar, so forgive me, Dr. Matt. But when I started to learn about your guys' approach to analyzing these big files and all this data, my brain immediately went to some of these, I don't know if they're nonprofits or companies that try and find old law cases where someone might have been imprisoned for not doing the crime. And there's just the reason I brought it up, or I thought about it, was the idea that they dump all the files on them and say, go find whatever you think is in there. And then you can take your kind of platform and see all of that. And it breaks down all these different things. It's amazing what you guys are doing.
It can, our AI software can handle not just English. It's a large language model. So if you've got medical records in Korean or Spanish and you want them summarized and then put into English, you can do that as well. So, there's been, codes that the code breakers from, World War II couldn't break. Crazy. The AI now has. So not only that, I mean, we've also, we've done a lot with handwriting. So our AI can also read handwriting that human beings, perhaps can't read. What we've kind of realized is that even with AI, it cannot read all handwriting, or perhaps a document might be so old and so faded that you can't read it anymore. Maybe 20 years ago you could, but now it's faded. So what we've trained it to do is to give a confidence score. So it'll say something like, after reviewing 10,000 pages, all of it is legible except for these 2 pages. And then on these 2 pages, we believe this is a 5, but there's a 20% chance it's actually a 3. You just can't tell, it's too faded.
Right.
Or the handwriting is just too bad. So we can actually, have that type of specificity in regards to Kai AI taking a look at documents and saying, this is what I believe we're looking at here.
Yeah, if it's illegible, it's going to let you know, especially on the QME. We know doctors have really good handwriting. We're going to go with that. But no, it really does. Reading the handwriting. One of my favorite demos for the legal was uploading the JFK files. So taking tons of JFK files with CIA written notes, FBI notes that have been released, and putting them in, and then actually extracting and asking who shot Lee Harvey.
So tell us.
Yeah. Well, it won't tell you who because it wasn't there, but it will give you the options and break down and actually
score.
Yeah.
What's the score? The confidence score.
Yeah. We're looking at it and going, okay, it's pulling up and giving you reasoning behind it, not just saying, hey, there's a name.
Yeah.
Well, based on this document and this document, I didn't upload all 250,000 pages. I took a nice 10,000 page chunk just to, prove that, okay, it can read the handwriting. And some of these are bad photocopies. And another thing of our software is it's actually looking at documents through JPEGs. So we have some on the legal side, clients take pictures of the traffic collision report or, their, insurance forms, and they'll just text them to you, and they're bad copies laying on the bed.
Yeah, it's great. They'll have, like a police report, and it's 10 pages long. Well, they send you 10 emails. Each one is one JPEG, one page.
Yeah.
And it'll be laid on like a tablecloth or like a paisley bedspread or something. And then, it just takes up like unnecessary amount of data just to scan. And then the AI has to then pull information off of that.
But it can read that document, read the handwriting that's in that document out of a picture. And I mean, just to think of that years ago and go, only a human can do it.
Right. I'm starting to see that too. You can take a picture of something and it still interprets the language on it. It's insane.
And puts it in context too. And
Right.
that's the big thing is context. Is original AI didn't have context. It was more of like kind of a keyword search. And then that's where we got into contextual late stage chunking. And then we talked about the chunks before. And at first you would chunk the data and have that, tons of chunks, say 1,000 chunks and you only get 100. Well, now you have 20,000 chunks and still only pulling the top 100. That's how the old AI worked. Now we're looking at using contextual late stage chunking. We kind of flipped it in reverse. It's one giant chunk. We use context, break it down. And now when you're asking a question, we look at the context of what you're asking or the prompt. If it's generated by you by typing in to the search bar or a predetermined prompt that we already have for that specific task. And then it's going in and saying, okay, this is a large chunk, but in context, what are you actually asking for? So that way you can actually retrieve the information with it being accurate. And that's the key is accuracy and within context of what you're asking.
It's mind blowing.
It's technology is just, I can't wait to see where it is 2 years from now. Yeah. Like we said at Microsoft, what they were talking about up there is just, one of the
what were the? I want to hear what they said was
some of the
coming out.
Well, the agent orchestrator, like we said, now applying like the whole thing of like a coach and then running the agentic. That is literally the future. But some of the products that they're working on with other companies. There was one company up there, I forget the name, but they were actually taking real-time highlight clips. So if you had a favorite player and you're watching a basketball game and you're like, hey, Steph Curry's my favorite player. And you're going in there and in real time, you could go back and be able to be like, I want to see all the highlights from the game. And while you're watching it, split the screen and watch all the highlights from that game or past games instantaneously because it's processing. It's now multimodal. So we're looking at audio, we're looking at video. It's breaking it down super, super quick. And be able to extract those. And I was just like blown away at how fast the technology is, how processing is getting better, how data is getting better. And then we're not losing data during extraction and processing. We're actually having it at our fingertips. So those days of like, I got to research and I got to go through, it's now have a prompt, or have an agentic approach where it already knows exactly, you've already trained it and refined it, knows exactly what you want. And you're going to be able to extract that so quickly. I mean, it's moving fast.
Yeah, it's crazy what life's going to be looking like in the future when you just things like having a camera in your fridge that like sees all your stuff and then knows what you want to have stocked in there and just orders it for you. You don't even have to order it, and it knows what time you're going to be getting home because it's synced to your calendar, so it has it ordered and arrived to you, and you never even had to ask for it. You know,
that sounds like grandma.
Yeah. Simple.
I know what you want to eat.
Yeah, simple
you know?
tasks will be automated, and I mean, a lot of people are fearful that they're going to lose their jobs, and I think it's going to
Some
create
people
a lot.
are, but it's going to create other ones. So.
Yeah, and I think too is some of these kids that are going to school for like coding, and I want to code. Well, now AI is doing coding, and really it's more going towards prompt engineering, learning about AI. It's just another evolution of technology, and it's going to create more jobs. And our legal, we look at it as we're not trying to get rid of paralegals or attorneys. What we're trying to do is create efficiency. So where one of our paralegals before would have to go through those 8,000 pages manually as well as with a lawyer, now we're looking at it going, okay, that one person can go 5 to 10 times exponentially faster and be efficient, extract that data, and move on to bigger tasks. So you're actually having your team more efficient without having to expand, hire another employee, give up more space, more people to worry about, higher payroll when you can just have AI do that process.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to get your guys' perspective on this coming from an AI company perspective, but the big discussion about the energy around AI. And like you said, you might not need the people, but it is still drawing more and more. And I've heard about, small nuclear energy. I've heard about solar. I don't know, as a AI company, what do you guys see for the future of energy provided to these systems?
I think they're going to use AI to make it more efficient. Especially, I think the big thing is power production. Because what you're talking about is like the GPUs, the servers, the server farms that like NVIDIA, Microsoft are constantly building and planning. Because, you need compute power, right? And that's where some limitations for other companies come in is we have, GPUs working to process the data, especially at scale. So the larger we get, more people using our software, the more compute power we have to keep up the speed for scaling. But technology, I mean, that comes down to where do we pull that power? Like you said, nuclear, they talk about small nuclear. They've talked about fusion or cold fusion, which has always been, talked about.
Right.
Could AI solve that problem?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting to think about. I've never actually considered
AI
the
might
whole...
solve its own problem.
Right, exactly. I've never considered that because it's not a big blocky cell phone anymore. We got a whole computer in our hands. So as the technology advances, maybe some of those energy restrictions might be solved. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the hope too, is it does use a lot of power. I mean, that's one of the issues that ChatGPT is having, is when they're down, is because their workload and the power is so much and their server farms are just being pushed to the max. We need to exponentially grow those as AI. It's kind of everything's got to kind of evolve at the same time. Like you said, power grid, everything else. I mean, we're worried in California about, everybody getting electric cars and make sure we can power those and not having, the brownouts or blackouts, right? Now picture everything's ran on AI from your fridge to our software or anything else. Where's that power and processing
the data needed
come
for
from?
Dr. Matt to sit back and order something from his fridge.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but that power is going to come from somewhere. I think with AI is going to solve its own problems, or help at least with us with the infrastructure design. I mean, we see it in engineering, we see it in tech. It's going to help efficiency, and it's coming.
But even in terms of like processing power, like before it might take, I don't know, what were we processing originally? 1,000 pages might take.
In our legal software was taking like 30 minutes to an hour originally, and that was just because we had lower, servers, GPUs were smaller, and then we had to upgrade, which uses more power, which is our cost in the back end of process. But then it became faster and faster, and again, more power, bigger motor, faster it goes. And
so now we can process 1,000 pages in, maybe 10, maybe 15 minutes. It depends on the quality of the pages, but generally it's not going to be an hour now. It'll be about 10 minutes. So just even that kind of efficiency can make the whole project obviously a lot faster.
Interesting.
So with everything you guys know about AI, I have a question for you.
we'll try to answer.
If I let's say I was a new chiropractor and I wanted to build an office,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to have my number one overhead is payroll for sure, by far.
Yeah.
And I love my team. We have a fabulous team, and I'm not looking to replace my team with AI. I'm trying to make them more efficient.
Yeah.
But just for a thought experiment, if I was a new chiropractor coming out and I didn't want to hire a team, I didn't want that expense. You have answering phones, you have scheduling, you have billing, you have marketing, you have, all your administrative stuff too, just your financial stuff you need to have done. Like, how much of that stuff could be done with AI in reality? And if you were to do it, how would you go about doing it? Would you create your own coach, if you will, to use your analogy you had earlier?
An agent orchestrator,
and then you would
yeah.
find companies that, do the other things, and you'd have some sort of API integration that utilized each one of those. And so you would maybe have your main software you ran your chiropractic office off, and that was your coach. And then it integrated in with these other things and can kind of pull that data in and do it. Or what kind of ideas would you have for someone trying to build a software that would manage an entire business like a chiropractic office?
So building software it sounds cool. It's really a headache because you do have to have, a development team. You have your UI, UX, your user experience, user interface, your landing page, all that stuff, which can be done in like Figma and other stuff. Is easily done. You can outsource that. AI is taking that over as well. So you can actually do those things. We know about like web pages with like Squarespace and other companies. But right now, I think agentic AI is going to solve those. Answering phones. They already have it where you can have an assistant on your phone that answers for you and says, hey, Chris is not here. I'll take a message and have him get back to you. It can take care of scheduling. It can basically take care of all those, medial tasks. And I don't mean medial as like they're not significant, but they're, simple to do. And for AI, having an orchestrator that is the coach running those, and you train those agents to do those specific tasks. The great thing is we had issues in the beginning with large language model, not large math model, accounting side. Now with the agentic approach, they're training agents to be specific towards bills and billing and checking, so you can actually train a model or build software. It's becoming easier and easier. I could see within the next year that companies would actually be creating the software for you to create your own software. It's already out there, but it's going to be a lot easier because where you can go in and not be a coder and go, I need to answer phones, and I use this specific agent that's just for answering. I need this specific agent that's going to do the billing. I need this person to check the calendar and make sure that things are scheduled and going correctly.
So does it already exist? Like, is there, or how far out do you think we are from going, go to this company and have them build you exactly what I just asked for?
There's companies out there that can do that, that can go out and build it for you. It just depends on what the price tag is.
Yeah.
With everything comes to cost. It's going to be
not practical for a single chiropractic office to do it. But maybe if you had 5 or 10 offices you had a budget for it.
You might be able to have kind of like a hodgepodge of
quasi version of it,
of different like AI that have different things that it can do, because there's no AI that can do it all. That's
Right.
why each one is so specific. Like, we're not looking to process, for example, case law. We're not looking to write legal briefs. There is AI for that. We're not looking to do that.
Right,
we're
but
looking to work with large files.
But let's say there was, there was an AI that could do everything in the chiropractic office.
Yeah.
Is there a coach style one that could interact with those other ones and control them, or would I still, as a business owner, need to control them? My point is, like, in the future, if you had an automated practice, right? Like, I could graduate from chiropractic school, and somebody built the coach version of this thing that was my software, and they maybe had partners of other people that did stuff, but that coach could run it for them, and I just pay one fee to the coach. And I got this automated practice that can just do.
I think what you're looking at is like almost like in legal, it's in medical, it's a case management software. Mm-hmm. And what you do is you'll have plugins that are agents. So what you'll do is you'll have this wide array of different agents that you need and say, well, I only need the one to answer the phone, do the calendars, do the accounting, do the bills. There's management software out there that you can use the plugins from other companies, third parties, to actually input.
I mean,
into
our
it.
existing software does do that. We
Yeah.
use a software called Chiro Touch.
Yeah.
And it has API integrations for
Exactly.
an exercise platform for giving exercises. Our credit cards, our merchant account is integrated into it. What else is any other ones integrated into it? Sending out text message reminders.
I think it's
stuff
more
like
and more
that.
every day, to be honest.
But none of them
Yeah.
none of those things are AI things.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess my question is, how far away are we, or are we already there where you can get, I don't know if they still call it an API, but an API integration into an AI bot that could do an AI task.
It kind of learns your practice needs type of thing.
That is
Like-
that's the agentic approach.
Like we had a guy in earlier before in our other podcast that did, he had a financial company, he's the CFO, and he had an AI bot that was a CFO that you could ask questions to.
Yeah.
Right. So imagine you as a chiropractor, you don't know squat about running a business, right?
Yeah.
But you have this EHR software that's collecting all your data and payments and everything. And then there was an AI bot integrated into it that could read all your data of everything you sold, and it could tell you and explain to you like what all that means and how you should run your business and give you recommendations and stuff.
I think we're a lot closer than you think. Because especially with like when people are like, we 6 months, a year out, there's people already working on it.
Yeah.
It's already within.
Okay, so that brings me to my next question.
I've got one question.
Let me guess this last one.
Yeah.
This is because it's getting juicier.
Yeah.
The next question is so you're saying there's people out there doing it. There's a lot of money in tech, right?
There is a lot.
And so for a chiropractor like myself who understands a little bit of the text, not a coder or anything.
Neither are we.
But how could I get my foot in the door building a tech product like the one I just described? And you guys, because you've just been walking this path for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So for someone who is just starting out today with where the landscape is and now in a niche market like mine, what would be a good steps that I could take to build a product?
The first step, and I think we made this as a misstep, is we, not coming from a tech background or an AI background of any sort, we having advisors or someone that you can actually talk to and guide you. Again, shout out Mike Wilson. Really just
Mike Wilson.
Mike Wilson, man. Just
Mike
someone.
Wilson, hit me up if you're listening.
Yeah, please. Yeah, we'll give you a contact. It's just having somebody that knows how it works, because the front end can look great. You can have this great user interface and everything looks great, but it's really the back end, how you're, breaking down the data, what processes you're using to make sure everything works. And for scalability, if you're growing your business as an individual chiro, you plan to grow. You need that software to grow with you.
Right.
So you need to make sure scalability is good. That's where, developers, full stack developers, front end guys, back end guys, AI data scientists, people that are actually working and getting their doctorates in this, really apply. You do need a team. AI is not going to do it. They are replacing the long code, and where now these guys are checking and implementing and building this stuff. But if I was just starting out day one, I would find somebody that is knowledgeable, basically on the front and back end, that can help guide you. And then you have to really lay out like a flow chart or a plan of how you want it to work. So it'd be for you, if you're saying, hey, I want it to answer phone calls, do the calendar, do the accounting, do the receipts, you'd have this of, okay, this is my idea of what the software is going to be. This is what the features I need to do. Now, how do I obtain that? What approach using AI am I going to use? Maybe I'm going to use APIs, or I'm going to create my own agentic approach and go through. So it's really kind of like you just kind of step into the fire and go for it. But
just getting the right team around you, basically.
You need a really good dev
My
team.
wheelhouse is understanding how an efficient chiropractic office can run. I can write down that workflow of how that has to happen, and then building the team of smart people that are at the cutting edge and saying, now make an AI do this.
And we did that. I think
Right.
Kirill did that for the legal. So he can speak to that, is he knows the workings of the daily. And then he was able to come to us and say, hey, this is what it should be doing. This is what I need it to do. This is where we should, check. And then we went to our developers, our team, engineers, and said, okay, this is what we want the front end to look like. This is what we need it to do on the back end. Because the back end is all the processing and all the AI and everything. People just want results, right? I just want the stuff. Just hand it to me, give it to me. I just want what I want.
We're more big thought guys. We're not back end guys.
Yeah. Well, the back end's where all the magic happens, right? And that's where the security comes into play, the processing, how you're delivering. Because you can process data all you want, but if you can't deliver it,
Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course, as we found, different software engineers have different talents too. They're not all the same. So there's some that might be much stronger on the code part. There's some that are, we're working with one gal right now. She's a PhD student in AI, and then she works with us part-time, and she has a very good, like almost like a futuristic understanding of AI based on her PhD program. So some of them are really good at like just making it like visually attractive to users. Others are just straight code. So it all depends, So I think if you're going to do it that way, you have to have obviously a strong team, and you got to, analyze the team as you go and figure out, okay, are we making deadlines? Are we making progress we need? We've had plenty of setbacks. It's not been smooth at all.
Project management.
Yeah, there's been a ton of times when we thought we're making a minor change in the software, and we asked our engineers, like, hey, all we're looking to do is like upgrade the server. That's not going to corrupt anything, right? Like everything will be fine, right? Oh yes, it'll be fine. Then we make this minor change, and then nothing works.
And then we're getting emails and phone calls. I'm trying to go through a deposition, and I'm like, give me 1 hour. And that pressure of anybody out there that's doing software, I recommend if you're doing updates, do it on a Saturday.
Okay.
For sure.
There's words of wisdom there.
Yeah, don't do it in the middle of the week. We try to do it on a Thursday because that seemed okay.
Because it's just that unpredictable. Sometimes you make a change that you would not think would affect the software, and it just does, and nobody knows why. So then you have to go back and figure out, okay, let's go through miles of code until we find that one spot.
And that's where a really good coder or detective is going to come in to figure that out.
And that's becoming agentic as well. And that's where it's progressing. As I think, like you said, we'll have a software where, there's some out there that somewhat do it, but you'll have a software out there that you can kind of go in and be like, this is my idea. This is what I want to do. You can use it with ChatGPT, kind of do that layout and flow chart of how you want it to work, how you want it to connect. It'll actually build it for you and give you a visual of how you want it to. I want to go on the landing page. I want to log in, and it just produces it, and you're like, that would have taken me forever. And it took 30 seconds.
Well, that's what I was going to ask is, I don't know if this is how it works at all, but is there a sense, and we've talked about this privately, is there a sense of maybe we don't need to take on this next task because in 6 months, someone else is going to have already done it into a way where we can just plug it in? I don't know if that's exactly how it works when you have your own company, but the rapidness, if you could speak to how quick things are changing, do you make strategic choices on where you're going to go?
That's a fear I have too about like putting a lot of time and effort into something that is going to be
money.
Taking over and money taking over. Like say you could go into ChatGPT and build a really custom ChatGPT model, but it's only so good because there are limitations to ChatGPT. You put a lot of effort into it, right?
Yeah.
And then in 2 months from now, they come out with something else that's custom and better than what you spent forever trying to build.
We're on 4.5. I think we're on 4.5 that has the option to research. When we started, it was like ChatGPT 3 and then 3.5 Turbo. And we're like, this is amazing. It's antiquated.
Yeah.
It's that was a year and a half ago, a year ago, what we're working on. That's why when I went to Microsoft Build and came back and said, this is the direction we need to go, we're rebuilding everything again. To stay cutting edge, it has to be current and update. So our current stuff is great. A year from now, it's gonna be okay. So that's why we're already building the next version. Thankfully we get some access that other people don't.
I think you really have to take an agile approach. I'm in doing my MBA class right now. I'm in a operations and project management class, and agile is a term they use a lot in the developer world of apps and AI and all this stuff. But the idea with an agile approach to a project is not that you create the whole project plan and then you execute the whole plan and then deliver the product at the end. It's that you break it up into chunks and you do a little piece of the project and you release it to the customer and see how they like it, and you get the feedback and you change it, and then you iterate and you do the next little chunk, and you're doing that through the whole process. So by the time you have the end finished product, it's not the one that you set out to create in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's a different one, and they're finding that it's a lot better for the customer in the end, because it's a process even for the customer that they think they might want this or that. Think about even a project you might have done at your house. You have a vision of something that you want to have done, but then they tear something out and they find there's a problem with this, and do you want to add this to the project? Do you want to do this? If you don't get any input from the owner of the project along the process, they might end up delivering you exactly what you asked for in the end, but it's going to be either over budget or it's going to take way longer than it should have because of all the things that happen, or even the owners, because if it was a long project, their tastes might have changed as time went on, and they don't want that product anymore that they originally ordered. So I think with AI changing so quickly, it probably would be better to, iterate faster and get feedback from the customers faster and just constantly be changing it as we go.
We call that beta testing.
Yeah.
So that's really where, and to be able to pivot too, because I think with us, we didn't originally do QME. We were approached by one of the largest, no, we won't name them, one of the largest QME companies going, hey, we heard you guys are doing, software and do medical records and this. Well, yeah, for the legal side, we showed them, they're like, this is amazing. Could you do this for QME? And we're like, what's QME? And then we're like, oh, it's just doing chronology. I'm like, yeah, I think we could do that. So we were working with them to develop, the QME product. And we were like, okay. And then that person ended up leaving that company. And so all the money and research that we put into it for them, we were just like, well, we'll just keep going forward and look not only just to be for these large companies, but for the individual QME out there, because these large companies, they do take a good chunk of your money, and it's like with the new the new fee schedule. I mean, that should go in your pocket, and we're trying to be affordable, be something that you can use at home if you're the individual that's just, hey, I got these documents you want to upload, and then the speed, right? So another thing too is like Kirill was talking about, sitting out to India, the Philippines, or one of these companies, you're waiting sometimes 5 days minimum to 3 weeks. Now you're having it same day.
Yeah,
same day. But
yeah, that's right. So the same QME doctor could probably process 3 to 4 times as many files in one day as they could have in the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
Because they can process the files
That's a game changer.
Real quick. But yeah, like you said, being agile, being able to pivot. I mean, I think that's key for us is where's this roadmap going? Like we started out with just legal. Now we're, touching on QME. We find use cases outside of what we're doing all the time. We've had students go in and, that are beta testing our software, decided to upload their law book and create
study manuals,
study flashcards,
test questions, probably.
Yeah, test questions, and kind of go more in depth or explain it in layman's terms. Sometimes a certain chapter or something using our software. I was like, I didn't even think that was possible. So we have some use cases because we know legal. Kirill's in that field. We know QME because it's very related to med legal.
Yeah,
that way.
This product you guys have seems like it was definitely. They say necessity is the mother of invention, right?
Exactly.
You guys dug into ChatGPT and at first were wowed and then realized its limitations and then built something that can handle what you needed it for. And congrats on you guys. That's pretty amazing. That's not a small feat to learn everything that you guys had to learn. And
continue to learn.
And it's constant. Like I said, it's changing so rapidly and fast. It's like you have to adapt as the new technology comes out and build the software. Otherwise, it'll just be something that was really good 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And we can't have that.
No.
Just thanks, guys, for coming out.
I appreciate you having us.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much.